put out to bid for this phase one project in August of this year. So in PennDOT world, that's pretty fast. We do have a viable schedule. We're in alignment with that with PennDOT. So we have to keep proceeding through the process, which is, I'm sure everyone in the room can appreciate with PennDOT. You know, it is a complicated, multi-step process that you need to go to. But the agency's been really, the department's been really good to work with on this project, and they've been very supportive. So we're optimistic we will meet that schedule. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael, and he's going to talk a little bit about the sort of roadway engineering. And then if you have any questions, just chime in as we go, because otherwise we'll just keep talking to kind of plow through this. Michael.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. I think a main thing to keep in mind is that, as Sean said, we're focused on making safety improvements in this corridor while also sort of refreshing it from the civic space perspective. So at a few of the intersections, and this will go back to the planning process as well, where we proposed sort of the same thing, but a few of the intersections in particular will receive bump out curb extensions at all of the corners. And this is done mainly to shorten crossing distances for pedestrians and give them a better sense of whether they're stepping out into the actual travel lanes or not along the roadway. The bump outs also help sort of calm traffic speeds. And then also from an accessibility perspective, out there right now, the curb ramps are not up to, modern standards for accessibility. So that's a big element that will be incorporated into this as well. And throughout the plans, if you flip through them, you'll see, the modern sort of flared curb ramps at all the intersections with modernized striping and everything for the crossings. In terms of which intersections are receiving the more significant bump out modifications, we have 8th Street, the 8th Street intersection, which you can see on sheets 2 and 3, the 9th Street intersection, which is split between sheets 4 and 5, and then the Orange Street intersection, and then along the furthest segment east, between the two at-grade rail crossings, as Sean had alluded to, that's where we're doing a more wholesale reworking of the roadway geometry, mainly because you effectively have a double wide roadway in that block between Rock and Washington streets. So it's an opportunity to sort of recapture a lot of space that's effectively wasted as is, with the amount of streetscape area you can create. If you look on sheet number 8 in the plan set, just looking north of Independence Street in that block, you can create a pretty large area where you could even do, sort of open air market, those types of things without even having to close any traffic. So there's an opportunity there to capture a lot of space while also better channelizing the road for traffic, for vehicular traffic. So people have a better sense of how they're supposed to navigate that block in particular. And then also just improving things for the pedestrians so they don't have to, to get from one side of the road to the other in that block. You're crossing, 100 feet of asphalt or whatever it is in the current condition. So, overall, those really the main geometry changes we're making. As there's one other spot, as Sean noted, on sheet number 4 in that block between 9th Street and Cleaver Street. where the roadway is sort of, it gets much wider at the center of the block. You know, this is not the very final geometry, but we're trying to address that sort of misshapen portion of the roadway and sort of turn the cartway into something more typical of a downtown street. And you'll also gain pedestrian space out of any modification to that curb as well there. As far as, you know, other items related to the roadway, in terms of lighting, obviously there is fairly new lighting that's already out there. So the intent is for us to leave that in place. We are, for most of the intersections, with the possible exception of Rock because of how much it's being reconfigured. There isn't necessarily an intention to redo any traffic signals at this point. So trying to maintain the lanes crossing in the same location where they are today, to attempt to avoid, you know, having to completely redo, even if there's some retiming or something like that. Ultimately, having to replace the entire signal is an expensive endeavor. So we're trying to avoid that where possible. I would say that pretty much covers it from the roadway side. Sean, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think the only other thing is as each segment is undertaken, in addition to the curbs and the sidewalk and some drainage improvements, each segment of that roadway would also be repaved. You know, the existing paving that's out there is in pretty bad condition.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the block, but as a general statement, it's in need of replacement.
Yeah, so we, in conjunction with PennDOT, they actually went out there and did pavement cores. It's possible you saw them in their rig out there at some point on Independence Street. So they recorded sort of what's out there in terms of pavement, so we can figure out how we can most effectively upgrade the pavement, because a traditional milling a couple inches off the top and repaving it probably won't have the longevity, just because of how deteriorated the roadway is overall. So there'll be a bit thicker of a milling and repaving there, but the result should be, you know, a much more durable surface that, you know, won't start showing all of that deterioration again quickly. So that's the goal there as well.
So we're obviously, in addition to safety, we're also trying to create a fresh new look for downtown. And so the strategy that we're proposing, which we believe will be cost effective and impactful visually, is at the intersections, whether they're bumped out or not, we would do some accent paving as a full field, which you can see in the rendering that we submitted, but it also is the pink areas on the plans. It's much better to do unit pavers. In this case, we're proposing a very durable clay paver that we've used quite a bit in other projects, as a full field, versus doing the accent banding mixed with concrete, which tends to be the first point of failure. And, you know, long-term actually creates a lot of maintenance challenges. So
difficult to maintain.
Yeah. So just because the materials move and separate and things, because they're, you know, you have to create a space in the concrete to place the pavers, which creates a point of, you know, freeze and thaw and expansion and contraction. So what we'll call like the main line, which is the sort of traditional with sidewalks that run in front of all the buildings between the intersections, would just be concrete scored in a similar kind of diagonal sort of diamond pattern that you have now. And so that's going to create the most longevity out of the investment you're making. And also, it will accommodate the fact that you will be doing this project in phases. So at least things will look like they match, even if they're, you know, it's not constructed all at one time. So As Michael mentioned, the lighting, and I worked with Bob, and he had done a lot of research back now, like a year and a half or so ago, into the history of the street lights. And, in order to get the upgraded lighting, that was done under a partnership agreement with PPL. So they're kind of fixed as an object. And interestingly, if you go back and look historically, there was a pretty high overhead lighting approach, albeit it was more decorative than the lights that you have now for a very long time. So it's kind of consistent. It's not what I would do if I had a choice, but it's not the end of the world. So what we decided to do, and I think it would really create a kind of festive special kind of placemaking element, is focusing again that the investments at the intersections where you're already doing the most kind of disturbance for construction. We're proposing to do a string light, which also existed, albeit for holidays, in Shamokin years ago at the key intersections. So the rendering illustrates that, and then actually in the amenity package we sent out, there's some cut sheet information from a vendor. And right now, we have it in this base white. We're doing another project out near Pittsburgh where we're actually looking at potentially a multi-spectrum color, which you can then change for seasons and stuff. It does have a cost implication, but the photograph is actually, and that sheet is from Norfolk, Virginia, where we have to have an office, and that is very successful for festivals and things. It really creates at all times of year a very kind of lively setting, and they actually do have overhead lighting at the intersections, which you can kind of see in the background of that picture. So we think that the fact that it'll arch over the street and you'll see it from a distance, as well as it'll supplement lighting at the intersections, we think that's like a good way to sort of use your precious resources for the most kind of return. And then we are proposing street trees. There are less street trees than there used to be. We've kind of been strategic. We tried to place them in front of, lots, vacant lots, or at party walls between businesses, and not directly in front of doorways and storefronts and signs and things, as best we could. And the other thing is, if you were around when we constructed the park downtown Illumination Station, there are 2 trees in that park, and it looks like there's only a 3x3 tree pit, but the tree pits are actually almost 10 by 10 in that case, because there's a special structural soil system. It's essentially a bunch of very strong crates underneath the sidewalk that allow the roots to grow and not push up the concrete. This is a proven technology that every major city now employs in their streetscape. So we would be doing that for the street trees that would be going in. So although the street grates will see the same size, well, they will be the same size, there will be much bigger area for the tree roots to grow, and addressing the concern that existed about all of the lifting sidewalk that created a lot of problems and further caused degradation. And then the last thing I would say is we do have accommodations in there for benches and trash receptacles. The final placement of those is, we're still kind of working that out. As those are amenities that are pretty flexible, where we can put them based on available space. And then the last thing that's important, and I'm leaving it to the end, is there is an implication on this design to the existing parking count. And part of that is just by creating actually ADA accessible and properly placed crosswalks. It really impacts the ability of, or the placement of the last parking spaces at the approaches of each intersections, both to make sure that people aren't, you have the distance separate from the crosswalk to the first parking space, and people aren't pulling out into the crosswalk and some other things. So the thing about that is it's equitably spread all the way across the corridor. So it isn't one block that's losing a whole bunch of parking. And in some cases, we've tried to add some parking with some diagonal parking down by Washington and Rock as well. So that's the project in a nutshell. At this point, I think probably the best thing to do is open it up for questions because we just bombarded you with a lot of information. And go from there.
Mr. Garrigan, I have one question. This is Councilman Beganis, and that is, I see a lot of trees in this, and I have nothing against trees, but can you work with our public safety, maybe our police chief? We have security cameras going all down Independence Street. The more trees, I don't want to have hindrance of public safety that they can't get access to the cameras.
I see. Yeah, I mean, this is an initial layout. We can go through the plans with the trees. It's, not hard to not install a tree in the plan, like we could. So.
This is the time. Any locations that don't work, it's very easy to pull them out of the plan, so.
I also have a concern with the trees on the maintenance side of it. Because once you put the trees there, we're gonna be responsible for trimming, and that's where things went south this time. We're not gonna have the budget to be able to trim that many trees and maintain it. So I most certainly think, aside from the safety concern on the cameras, the future maintenance part, aside from the roof issue, we probably need to step back on that a little bit.
We don't need 20 trees in one block radius.
We don't need 20 trees on Independence Street in general. It's a proven fact that didn't work well.
Gentlemen, yes, I was here 3 or 4 years ago when an organization within Penn State, I believe it was, came here and did a study. And Mr. McLaughlin, you're right. The only question I have is, one of the things that I recall from numerous meetings up and down 10th Street was the trees that were planted. Apparently, someone didn't take into consideration that they were going to grow as high as some of the buildings. And that caused a real problem to Independence Street.
So I can add to that. Yeah. So back in the day, when I was literally only young, I used to work for Harvey Boyer, who was the mayor at the time, when that whole thing got done. 1985. All of the concerns that we have now, they had then. They talked about the concern of the trees, and they supposedly picked a tree that would only grow so far, would only do so much, and it wouldn't impede on the beauty of Shamokin and impair the buildings. The root issue was a question, and so were the pavers. So
because if you go down to Independence Street right now, one of the biggest problems is not only the trees, but look at the condition of the curbing, the sidewalk, and that was all brought on because of these trees. I think you got to be extremely, extremely cautious whatever trees, because it also, it was told to me by people who are no longer with us, that, Mr. Boyer was told that they'll only grow so far, blah, blah, blah. Well, those of us that are still here today, seen how big they got.
Well, yeah, first, so those are Zelkovas, which are the same size as elm trees. I mean, they will grow very large. However, they're also a very slow growing tree. So those trees were, I think, installed in 1987, 1988. Based on the drawings. So the part of the problem you have with the sidewalk piece is they were installed in tree pits that aren't large enough to support the size tree that they became. So the solution to that is the technology that we're proposing, not that we're proposing gigantic trees. The flip side of that is eventually they will, even though they're slow growing trees, after 40 years, they will, grow to be quite tall. So, I mean, as a general rule though, what we try to do is pick a tree that will grow large enough that you limb the bottom of the tree up above the first floor so you're not blocking storefronts. Having worked in a lot of Main Street and commercial districts, a lot of times they do the opposite situation where they put a small tree and then they prune it and turn it, I call it like a meatball on a stick. and then it blocks the business, and then the business gets upset. So it's sort of like it can't grow and it can't be small. So, picking the species of tree is important, and also where you place them is important. What we did not do is what was very commonly done historically, which is you pick the spacing, and it didn't matter what it blocked, you put the tree every 42 feet or whatever it was based on the length that you block. And that was pretty much how it was done in your previous plan. If you look, the tree pits that are out there, granted, mostly no trees in them, they roughly follow a uniform spacing, which then resulted, it looks great on a plan, but in reality, it means that some storefronts have a tree right in front of their door. So we looked block by block, building by building, and said, well, here's a place, and in some cases, there's nothing going on in the building, like in front of the Rite Aid, for example, there's a pretty long blank wall where there isn't even a window. Like that's a place that you can add a tree. It's not blocking a window, it's not blocking a sign. So it's a place where there's an opportunity to put a tree. I mean, we can go through the whole plan. I'm happy to do that when we're up there. We can walk the corridor, decide, yeah, this is a good spot. I don't think we need this one. Like Michael said, now's the time. It's on a piece of paper.
All right, I'm going to present a different point of view. Councilman Dugan and Councilman McLaughlin, have said frequently that they're kind of new to all of this. And, for those of us who have been on board for a long time and heard your presentation and have been involved in discussions back and forth, I just want to say I'm a big fan of trees, and I don't like to think of Shamokin not having its, beautification process inhibited by not the right kind of trees and sufficient trees. I agree that there were problems in the past, and I know that security cameras are something that we need to think about, but I just don't want to dismiss the inclusion of trees out of, just out of hand. I think because I know you've addressed this, and they would not know that,
Yeah, so I think we gotta come up with what works for everybody, hopefully.
Well, that's hard to do.
Yes, I agree.
Impossible.
But I just want to go on record as I am a fan of trees.
Oh, I am
And
too.
I just want us to be able to work around that issue, so that we're coming out on top of that.
And I do want to say first, I should have added.
He's a
that
fan of trees too, right?
Yes, I am a fan of trees. I actually love the design, the look of the design.
Yeah.
I'm just more worried about the practicality side of it, being that I am currently street parking. The leaves falling on the sidewalk, who maintains the trees?
I'm worried about the practicality too,
Yeah.
but I'm worried about the aesthetics because, come on, Shmokin, we've waited a long time for this to happen.
And you're 100%
And
correct.
I don't want to take away anything that will add, so much quality to what we're about to have happen in town.
Unifying that area will attract more business.
Absolutely, it's all connected,
Yes, yes.
people are wondering why don't businesses come? Well, this is part of it, a big part of it.
I think we can come up with something that
I
will.
think you can too.
There will be some trees, not a lot of trees, some trees in good locations for the trees, and it will be, we are very much approaching this from a practical standpoint. We are not doing the town any service if we come up with a plan that isn't, realistic, that you can create it and maintain it long term. So I want to just put that out there, that we are approaching this from a very practical standpoint. And I think the key here is there are ways to use the precious resources you have strategically to get the best return with them in the context of being as practical as possible.
The only other concern I had was snow removal on those bump outs. Like, is the business owner gonna be responsible, like looking at those corners? That's an awful lot of snow for someone to have to remove and maintain those pavements. And who's gonna be responsible for doing that when they're throwing salt on top of our pavers? I just see that being a bit of an issue.
Okay.
One thing we have done, is with the bump outs, we've shaped them in a way that even when the, if you put the curbs up against, the final parking space in a row, you would end up with sort of an area where, you have the curb jutting out and likely to get hit by plows a lot. So we've tried to invert that and, create a way for the plows to sort of sweep in and out of these parking bays without too much issue. We're also looking at, installing, a handful of bollards at, strategic locations at the bump outs, to serve as sort of a visual cue that the curb is coming up, sort of the way that you put like a reflector in the corner of a curb in a parking lot, for the snow plows. So we're trying to account for that and address that as best we can, while balancing that with, the safety improvements here. So certainly something we're keeping in mind as well.
Is he talking these bump outs in the intersection or just that big one down
Just
here?
about every one, if you want. If you look at the plans, right there, on the orange or bump outs. Okay. For what it's worth,
When we took the trees off Main Street last year, the year before, we had to have the property owner's permission to do that. They signed for those trees, so Mr. Boyer company put them down there. So we had to go around and get everybody's permission to take the trees out. So in reference to your question, or Barry's question, who's gonna be responsible, for the maintenance on them? We do it that way, the property owner will be.
I don't know how we can make the property owner responsible for something we plan. I don't know how you can do that, but,
I'm only sharing
well, something we have to look at.
Yeah.
We're
the past.
yeah.
bring these up on the third.
Yeah, absolutely. These are good questions to bring up.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Conclude. You guys okay to disconnect with our
Thank you, sir.
guests?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
On the 30th.
Okay, you can move on to.
All right, do we have any bids?
No, sir.
Correspondence, citizens' comment contingent upon business listed on the agenda. All right. Okay, I need a motion to accept the minutes of the City of Shamokin Council meetings of December 9th, 2024, regular council meeting, December 3rd, 2024, special meeting, and December 30th, 2024 for a special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Anything on the question?
Who seconded it?
Not me.
Mrs. Moyer. Councilman Dugannon?
Yes.
Councilman McLaughlin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Moyer?
Yes.
Councilman Kaler?
Yes.
And Mayor Ulrich?
Yes.
The motion carries to accept the minutes as indicated.
Okay, under bills, motion to approve the bills from December 2024 as listed on the bill list.
So moved.
I didn't skip bill list.
No, at this time, you're gonna have to wait until next month.
Yeah.
This is just a formality, Mike. This is the way it takes place every month. We have not been able to get the bill list together on time for this evening's meeting because of a whole bunch of other things going on during the entire month of December. So please accept the apology. As soon as we have it, we won't have to wait until next month. But approving the bills is the way it's done.
To go and pay. Okay, who,
I didn't.
all right, I'll second it.
You mean it's in order, if we approve this, this is the way the checks come out.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay, anything else on the question?
If we had to wait month to month to pay the bills, you would be talking late charges. Not the ones that
And I'm not arguing that at all, and fine, I understand that on the business side of it. I have a hard time approving something that I'm not even seeing. So I have a hard time voting for that. That's just my personal opinion, but at the same time, I have a hard time voting for something I don't know what even exists.
I hear. My responsibility is to pay the bills as the bills come in. And go through council. Mr. Kinder, you were informed.
I just to try and sort things out, I understand, like,
I do too.
absolutely.
It's concerning.
That is a valid point. Are there any, as controller, I can ask, are there any major changes or any extra bills that we haven't seen on a regular basis over the last 11 months? It's still not that.
There's probably, okay, we did pay for a vehicle for the street department that was from the ARPA money that has been set aside for 2 vehicles. And I'm just using that as an answer to your question. My recollection, that may be the only one.
And I understand the end of December, and so we're trying to stop.
Now, you go back, Chief, maybe you want to chime in. How long has it been when the trucks that were supposed to be delivered in the latter part of 2024, the car dealership informed us that they could not locate the trucks.
Yeah, that
They were
was-
like on a train all around the country.
The one was delayed. That's the current one that we have. That was September. That was on a train. It was delayed by several weeks. And then our other 2 vehicles, I explained 1 or 2 meetings ago about what happened there. And right now we're in limbo with them. They're on a production line.
What happens is I'm a little concerned too.
Well, for me, I'm basing this on trust. And I trust all these people that are here. There wouldn't be any
It's
shenanigans.
not a matter of trust.
Well, by saying you have to see the numbers, it makes me feel like maybe you don't trust somebody or something in the
No,
process.
it's nothing personal. It's just that we're responsible. If I got elected here to take care of everybody, the taxpayers' money, I have to see it. I mean, it's nothing on trust. I trust everybody here. It has nothing to do with that, but the citizens trust us to make the right thing.
And I echo those words. It's not a trust issue at all, but I'm voting to accept and pay bills that I truly have no idea what they are. And to me, that, I don't understand how I can do that.
Want to change the way we pay bills? I mean, I'm your city administrator and it seems like what I've been doing for 11 years, and I would have to say, you can go back even longer when Mr. Strasser was here. And even before him, and Bill Strasser was here for 20 plus years. That's the way they did it. There's that old saying, does that mean it's right? It does, whether we want to or not.
Right, but like you're asking us to approve the bills from December, but we don't even have the bills from December.
You have the copy.
But I'm just going by what the minutes, the agenda says.
From an administrator.
Well, let's vote on it.
So is there a motion to?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay.
Mrs. Moyer was
She
the
made a
first,
motion.
and I seconded it.
Is there going to be any more discussion?
No.
Councilman Bennett?
I'm gonna abstain.
Councilman McLaughlin?
No.
Councilwoman Moyer?
Yes.
Councilman Kaler?
Yes.
Did you say yes,
Yes.
Mr. Kaler? And Mayor Ulrich?
Yes.
Okay. I have 3 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 abstention.
Okay.
Okay? You can move.
All right, director's reports. Council Finance.
Here we go. This is the December report from Treasurer Brenda Scandal. Total general fund balance as of January 1st, 2025, $1,728.82. Total motor license balance, $224,798.25. Total library balance, $207,110.12. Total sinking fund number 1 balance, $113,611.35. Total sinking fund number 2 recreation balance, $286,141.01. Total street lighting balance, $8,027.92. Total American Legion balance, $1,025.17. Total neighborhood mitigation fund, $31,804.93. Total code department credit cards balance, $6,638. Total police department credit cards balance, $2,296.26. Excuse me. For a total balance in all accounts to January 1st, 2025 of $1,882,181.83. Thank you, Mrs. Scanlon.
Do you have anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Other than to add, it is my department and, I don't know if any of the rest of you want to add anything, and I don't know if this will matter at all. I understand everybody's point of view. I guess it's a matter of, there's a happy medium somewhere, in my mind, with not seeing the actual bills because of the process that we've been going through, for years now. And having a true honest question about it. I get it all. I do. I'm very comfortable with approving the payment of the bills. They've been paid. We need that to keep our city functioning and working. And sometimes there will be glitches like this that we have to deal with as best we can. So that's my input about that particular situation.
And I do appreciate that. But one note there on the report, the top corner says 2023.
That was my mistake.
Yes,
And
yeah.
just so we correct it, that it's. Yep.
Thank you.
And,
In my dream doing this, I was doing a year-end and balancing out over $3.7 million.
And again, it's just making a note because it's in print there, that's all.
As controller, I would also like to comment on the financial thing. Mike makes a very good, excellent point. The problem with the city is we only have a certain amount of employees, and when December hits,
It's crazy.
it's one person. It's hard. It's really hard. It doesn't happen. I don't remember the last time that we didn't get a bill list. There are times when we have to wait a month for the treasurer's report, and it's always because of something other than we have enough people to get it all done in time. Qualified people. You can't hand something to an employee at the street department and say it's financial. Here, you do it. We just don't have enough.
All
right,
Thank you for that support.
Just make one comment. This girl's been with us 5-6 months. The code office undertook something that they don't usually do, and that one only works part-time. stepped up to the plate to help the lady down there at the front counter. How many envelopes, Bruce, did they put together? Over 1,000.
Way over 1,000.
So, you know, it's not like she was fluffing off and didn't get it done.
No.
But that's.
Okay,
That's not even
no, hold on, we're getting out of hand here, and it's now Mr. DeGan, Parks and Public Buildings.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that New Year's Eve downtown, I thought it was a wonderful job. Wonderful job. I was amazed at how many people showed up and how everybody had a great time downtown. I just want to give a special shout out, a thank you to Jeff Classic, the owner of Classic and Associates. He's actually been a financial backer of this since it's been going on downtown. Yes. The city of Shamokin, the Public Works Department, Kevin put that sucker together, that stage, had that ball up and everything. I was getting nervous thinking we're not gonna have anything, but he knew right away what to do, where to go, and what to put up there.
Yeah, how about the tarps, everything?
Yes, all that stuff. The police department, chief, your guys, phenomenal, again, honestly, I mean, you can't say much. The fire department, they did a great job. Kudos to Service Electric Cable Company. They provided so we could watch the ball drop in New York while our ball drop was going on. And that was also from Magic Rent to Own in Cole Township. They lent us a television. Thank God we didn't drop it or anything in the water, you know, rain in or anything. So we did good there.
It would have been the first time.
Yeah.
I understand.
DJ
Dropped it.
John Allenbach, who did a great job with the DJing, had crowds going, and Steve Funk for the fireworks. I mean, it was an amazing time. I think everybody that was there walked away with a good time. And Chief, we got no complaints, I don't think, no fights, no nothing happened. It was a wonderful time. So thank you to the citizens of Shamokin, and thank you to Mr. Glassick and the rest of these guys for getting us to go.
And for you. Thank you.
And you, Mr.
You
Mayor,
ran a lot down there putting stuff up.
that's how we roll. Also, I met with Matt. Oh, he's over here. Actually, he sent us, and Mr. Slavy, I forgot to put this in your box, but I put a copy of this into Kevin Richardson's box, and it's a photovoltaic feasibility. It's about solar lights on the Strauss Memorial Pool. So they put together what do you call it? An assessment. Sorry. We're going to, Mr. Mayor, we're going to see if we can get a meeting with Mr. Slavy and Mr. Richardson, myself and Matt, later on, probably after the Martin Luther King holiday or so. We'll talk, Mr. Slavy, once I get this to you, that you can take a look at it. It's about getting solar panels on the pool and see if we can get a grant for this, get that up and going. Okay. Also, this is on a personal note. Friday, I was going to take the decorations down, but I had a phone call from while I was at work from my daughter stating that our basement was being flooded. And I get home only to see a water main break down the street from us. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it wasn't just my house. There were 9 houses that were affected by this. And when I'm talking about affected, I had about 2.5 feet of water. My son had 3 feet. He still has no heat, he has no hot water in there, but we're making it, we're doing good. Dealing with insurance companies now, as you would. But this all happened Friday, 4 o'clock. I get home at 11 after 4, and I just got to give a huge shout out to our volunteer firefighters in the city of Shamokin, our junior firefighters. Those guys went above and beyond. Our volunteer fire police, because if you remember Friday, it was cold and it was getting cold, and that was thousands of gallons of water. The police department, chief, your guys, when the neighbors were coming out, some of them were like, oh, we don't know what to do. The way they made the neighbors feel was like, it was just, they felt like their world was ending, and your guys made them feel, okay, they're reassured. And this is the type of people we have here. The fire police, they had to hear morons yelling because there's water in the streets and people could not go through Shamokin Street or go on Rock Street, not looking at a flood that's going on. But these poor fire police, who are all volunteers, spend their time doing that. And yet, and our street department too. I mean, they were out there. Bruce, our code officer, he was there answering questions. I mean, I could not be more proud of the city and our people that are running this city day to day, every day. And it was, well, you just got called right out of work. It was not even, it was the end of the workday and they were all there. Kevin Richardson going down there, putting salt on all the streets, and it could have been even horrible down there on Rock Street. But he did a great job maintaining and top-notch people. And on a personal note, I just gotta thank them. Thank every one of those people. And with all my neighbors, wanna thank them. Heck, the neighborhood was coming out, giving them coffee and hot chocolate for all the stuff they were doing. So we appreciate you guys. And that's my final.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Streets and public improvements, Mr. Watt.
Okay, so, needless to say, I do want to pretty much agree 100% with Councilman Dugan, is that the efforts down at the water main break were exceptional. Everybody was there, everybody worked as a team. I saw literally no issues aside from the icing problem, which nobody could stop. But everybody addressed it quickly, literally within 30 minutes from when it happened. I think everybody was on site, and it was impressive to see. It was great to see the teamwork between the departments and the water company. I mean, needless to say, it was a water company issue, but it was really good to see, and hopefully there's going to be some work in the future. That patch is only going to be a temporary patch, which is part of my report. Because of not being able to get macadam and finish anything properly, everything is pretty much going to set until probably more than likely the spring, until it's truly fixed the way it needs to be. Some pavements there have to be removed and repaired because they're going to probably buckle worse than what they are already. One note there during that, Baron, I don't know if I want to steal your thunder, but a couple of our pumps on the fire trucks went bad. I do think we have to try to stay on top of that because I think they went through 5 pumps in one event. Kind of circling around my one question that I had last week, the reimbursement on stuff like this when it happens. I mean, we have overtime to the street department. I don't know about the police department. The chief could answer that. But the fire department, all the resources that were put out there, and it wasn't our issue. We were there trying to help and correct a public utility issue. Somewhere in there, I do think we should be able to get reimbursed from that utility for everything that was there, pumps that were burned up. I'm just throwing that out there, right?
I hear you, and I also did some checking this morning. And unofficial, okay? I think that may all get taken care of. I understand there was urgency for the public, whoever had water problems, to contact at a certain number, Aqua and insurance companies.
Yeah.
I don't know, but getting back to what you're saying, I think Aqua Insurance Company takes care of things like that. Certainly doesn't hurt for the city to ask.
Well, I'm just gonna say, right, they're not gonna take care of it if we don't apply for it or put a.
We'll have to get our losses together, talk to us piecemeal, put them all together.
Okay,
Sooner rather than
yeah,
later.
I can tell Kevin to put at least the street department program together. You could say I can't do that for the police or, the fire department, but I would most certainly think we should do something. Okay, so back on the street department, the new signs came in for the 8th and Lincoln Street intersection. They were installed this week, so the new stop signs with the little notes, if you want to call it that, about traffic patterns are up. That all came from the 8th Street Bridge project meetings that they were going to want up for next year. But we moved ahead and got those done sooner than later because it was also an issue for the Safe Streets for All. So that's up and done. The street department did some reorganizing in the warehouse. They added some shelving and also a exterior container to store some lumber and other material. Spruce Street, we just went over that, was temporarily patched. And they started taking down the Christmas decorations this week. So I believe the 2 Christmas trees are down and some of the decorations on Market Street, and the rest will be done, weather permitting, probably this week. And I do just want to reiterate that my conversation and my no vote on paying the bills, absolutely nothing to do with employees or not trusting. It's just truly a matter of me saying I approve something that I haven't seen. I get maybe that's the way we did it, and I'm fine with disagreeing, but I don't want anyone to think that it's personal. Absolutely nothing to do with an employee or distrust. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, sir. Where did I have you? Yeah. No, I'm just waiting. No, Mr. Taylor, we'll turn it over to you.
So for December, final fire report, for service calls, we had 51. For fire calls, 102. For fire alarms, 49. For hazardous conditions, 35. For rescue emergency services, 91. For special incidents, 24. For malfunctions, 6. And severe weather is 4, for a total of 462. And then for working fires, we had 27. For entrapment, we had 1. We gave mutual aid 164 and received mutual aid 20. And then for my code enforcement monthly report for December, the rental revenue was $1,055. For the rental registrations was 800. For vacant properties was 255. Parking permits was 320. Other permits was $3,012.50. Dumpster permit was $175. Peddler's permit was $50. For the third party inspector was $2,083.50. Excavating permit was $584. And for zoning hearing variance was $120. For a total revenue collected was $4,387.50. Now, for code enforcement activity, complaints addressed was 101. For code tickets or notices of violation sent was 48. For citations written was 41. Landlord inspections complete was 2. Posted unfit was 3. Fire call was 3, and warnings was 9. And the only thing I have is we are looking at we put a deposit on the fire truck. Finally. So now we just have to wait for the grant, which is the next stage of that. And that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you. Mr. Kinder.
Mayor, I have nothing to say.
Thank you. Mrs. Scandal.
I would just like to thank Mike for pointing out that I had December 2023. And if you all look on the left, you'll all see January 1st, 2025. So that's it.
That's it.
Would you all please put a 4 up there in the corner? So that. And if you look on the next report, that one I got right. Got since December 24th, and so does the cash flow in December.
Where did you say the 2020? What was that from?
If you look on the left, the balances as are of January 1st.
Oh, okay, I see it.
So if someone would get confused by this in the future, they would know that it is the 2024. So please mark the top. Thank you, that's all I have.
Right, thank you. Chief Psycho?
Real quick for December, we did 1,128 calls and patrolled 3,164. For the end of the year totals, we filed 21 juvenile arrests, 397 adult arrests, 81 non-traffic arrests, 320 traffic citations, 6 warnings, 3,519 parking tickets, 393 citations, 1,541 sweeper tickets, issued 178 code tickets, an additional 5 under a tint restriction. The total calls was 18,191 dispatch calls, and miles patrolled were 44,665. Pretty much when I broke it down, we're averaging between 36 and 38 calls per day, every day in the city.
It's crazy. Wow.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could pass these on to Michelle, to have copies made for council from the last meeting.
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Chief, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the parking meters downtown, are they now, they will get to this?
Yeah, we started already.
Okay,
January 2nd, we started.
just so I have SYBL down there, I don't want parents going
Yeah,
down
no,
there. Oh, what
January,
is this?
January 2nd.
Okay,
Also,
thank you.
in reference to the past question, I believe I have the parking enforcement officer, guidelines, whatever you want to say, pretty much down to a pat. I'd like to turn them over, if I can, to Mr. Greco for review. And we'll take a decision from there. Hopefully at the next workshop, we can discuss it a little further, but that is done.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
That's in regards to developing an ordinance.
No, no, sir. For our parking enforcement, it was very,
You're talking the job description.
yeah, it was very, very bland, the job description. I couldn't get the word out. I couldn't think of it.
Okay.
But the job description, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Job description.
Betsy and Justin.
And Tanya.
Oh,
Tanya, you
Tanya.
go first. Are you sure? Okay. Well, I'm gonna take a sip. I have a little bit of a sinus infection, so
All right.
excuse me while I take a sip of my water. First of all, if you want to turn to your agenda for the new business, I want to explain what you'll be voting on for number 1. It says request a motion to approve resolution 2501, which is a signature resolution for the letter of adjustment LOA to the reimbursement agreement RA for the Independent Street project. What that is when we first thought about doing this project, we knew we were not gonna be able to do the entire stretch with the amount of funds that we had. So initially, when we were going to go out to get an engineer for design and engineering, we were just thinking just to do a section for design and engineering and construction for that same spot. In conversations with PennDOT, we thought, you know what, it's probably smarter strategically to do the entire stretch of design and engineering for the entire stretch of Independent Street, break it out into phases as it was discussed tonight with the firm that actually is doing the work. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is with the original agreement we had in PennDOT's system, which is called their ECMS system, is we still had it that the designer and design engineer was gonna be for the small section and also construction for that small section. So we need to change it on PennDOT system, nothing to do with the design, nothing to do with the contract that we have with them. That was already exactly as it was discussed tonight. But we need to do that so PennDOT can release the funds. So that is actually what you are voting on tonight, to allow PennDOT's ECMS system to match what we've already contracted with Stromberg, Garrett and Associates. Nothing has changed. So now, if you have any questions for me. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that was crystal clear. Also, as it was noted several times tonight, please share the news to come out to the library January 30th, 2025 at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:30. What we decided to do, rather than have two separate meetings for the Safe Streets for All and the Independent Street Makeover, is to combine them both. It saves everybody a lot of time going to two different meetings, but also we have similar different contractors working on the same project. So they will have a PowerPoint presentation. They'll have a lot of the boards up, and you can ask all the questions. They'll also be talking about the timeline. But also, as you heard tonight, everything is not set. They really want to have public's opinion on this project before it's official for you all to vote on. So Justin will be sharing social media posts to get people out. CEDACOG will then share those posts. Those are some pretty big things to push out to the public. And I'm going to turn it over to Tanya next, and then we'll go to Justin about the park project. But does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime?
I just have this, will it be live on Facebook?
On Thursday? I'm sorry, it is a Thursday, the 30th. Is that something you could broadcast live, do you think, Justin?
I could.
I'm just was wondering.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah, we'll talk with the consultants and just make sure it's fine with them, but as long as it's okay with you. Okay, thank you so much, that was good. Okay, Tanya?
I just wanted to provide an update on your CDBG funding. There was a little bit of lull in getting projects completed from Linda Sterling leaving to my coming on board. So this year we were able to complete the West Commerce Street road reconstruction. That was completed. Also the clearance of blighted property 710, 712 North 6th Street. That was cleaned up. I am currently working on 6 structures with Peter's Consultants and Bruce, having those demolished. So we are moving ahead with that. And then this spring, we will also be moving on to the downtown streets reconstruction of Liberty and Water Street. So we're going to have some definite projects moving forward here shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Justin?
Last week we had an update on the footbridge plan for Volunteer Park and overall feasibility study on the entire park. There was a general consensus on the design package, but there will be a draft in February for everyone to go over and voice their opinion on the final design. And also GoShamokin.com is fully live and kicking. If any business in the city of Shamokin or organization needs help signing up or to be shown on how to use it, they can reach out to me. I'm more than willing to sit down and help anybody. I think that's all I have.
Matt?
One is from again, so I mentioned the solar feasibility study. So that's progressing nicely. We'll meet to talk and I'll take it from there and try to come up with funding. The study was completed by a senior engineering student at Bucknell. So it's nice to be able to connect, a student to the Shamokin area and get him involved. The other thing, a repetitive update, is just with the Moore grant. I gave you my spiel last week. If you have any questions or comments, if you're reading through the audit report or the packet I provided last week, I can try to answer anything or send it to Infinity to answer. And I'll be back in February to kind of gauge more of a consensus slash just more of a discussion about where people are at with the loan and everything. So that's it from me.
All right, well, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Can I get a motion to approve items 1 through 3 and 4 we will table for now?
Second.
Okay, anything on the question? All right, Mr. Staley.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
And Mayor Holbert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Do we have any unfinished business? Okay. Under boards and committees, request a motion to reappoint Daniel McGall to the Shamokin Housing Authority Board for a 5-year term beginning January 1st, 2025. I'll make that motion. Can I get a second? Okay, anything on the question?
Did we receive a letter of recommendation from anybody from the housing?
I received a letter from
Okay,
Mr. Miller.
okay.
I've also received a request from Mr. McGlaughlin and a verbal request asking that he be reappointed. And this appointment is no different than any other, so.
Just,
We don't know yet.
Okay.
All right. So I'm yours.
Okay, so that answers your question?
Yeah.
Who seconded it?
Yeah.
Mr. Dugannon?
yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Kaler?
Yes.
And Mayor Ulrich?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimous.
Okay, at this time, it'll be turned over to Attorney Greco for a solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Under my report, there's a request for motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance 2501, establishing regulations related to vagrancy and homelessness within the city. Just as a side note, under the third class city code, I'm not required to read word for word, and I'll probably lose my voice if I attempt to do it tonight. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights, but an ordinance of the city of Shamokin, Northumberland County, Pennsylvania, establishing regulations related to vagrancy and homelessness in the city of Shamokin, providing for the welfare, safety, and dignity of homeless individuals while promoting community health, safety, and order. Go down section 1, purpose and intent. And another side note, this was all provided to city council members and mayor. The purpose of this ordinance is to balance the need for public safety, community well-being, and the dignity and rights of individuals experiencing homelessness. And the city recognizes the complex nature of homelessness and is committed to providing supportive services while maintaining safety, health, and welfare of all residents. It's to provide humane alternatives to criminalization of homelessness, encourage cooperation between government agencies, nonprofits, and communities, protect the public from hazards that may arise, and promote policies focused on housing, first mental health support, and addiction services. It does contain a number of definitions which address homelessness, vagrancy, encampments, public spaces, streets, There's prohibited acts, camping or sleeping in public areas. It's unlawful for any person to camp or sleep in public spaces, except in potential designated areas or facilities provided by the city for such purposes. Obstruction of right of way is prohibited. Littering or improper disposal of waste is also prohibited. Blocking entrances or exits are prohibited. Section 4, emergency shelter, temporary housing, this shall not apply to, or doesn't apply to designated areas for homeless individuals and for individuals experiencing homelessness are temporarily allowed to remain in public spaces. There are penalty provisions provided in here. First violation, including a verbal warning and offer of services. Second violation, a written citation or warning with an offer to connect. Third, subsequent fine not to exceed $100 per violation. And the city shall partner with nonprofit organizations to provide outreach, support, and resources to individuals experiencing homelessness. All ordinances or parts thereof which are in conflict are hereby repealed, including section 383-18. So that's the abridged version of it. So a motion.
Okay, anything on the question?
Will this be downstairs in case the public wants to see it?
Yes, I provided a copy of this to Val, so
Perfect.
that should be on the counter tomorrow morning.
Yes, it will. You'll also be advertised in the newspaper. I can't tell you what day, because that's at their discretion, but we will get it over to the newspaper, and we will have this done in ample time before the next council meeting.
Sure.
We post that on the city's Facebook page too.
Sure.
Can you do that?
Sure. No problem. Motion? Motion and second.
Yeah.
Mr. McLaughlin, second. Any more questions? Mr. DeGan?
Yes.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
And Mayor Owen?
Yes.
The motion carries. I have nothing further.
Citizens' comments?
Mayor, before we adjourn, I just want to say, if I can real quick, that my son, a lot of you guys may know him, I'm proud. My son, he saved the boy down here when he was a lifeguard at the Rock Street Pool. And I'm proud to say that he will be going to basic training for the United States, maybe on Monday.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes. He's gonna kill me when he hears this.
Okay, with nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting.